But once meaningful wealth is created, the equation changes. At that stage, preserving capital becomes just as important as growing it. Hi there. So, why do wealthy investors focus more on downside protection than upside? Because investing changes completely at different stages of life and wealth. So, when you're younger, taking higher risk actually makes sense. Why? Because you still have two very powerful things on your side: time and future earning ability. Say, if you're a 25-year-old who makes a bad decision, they still have decades of income, compounding, and career growth ahead of them to recover. But once meaningful wealth is created, the equation changes. At that stage, preserving capital becomes just as important as growing it. Because the larger the portfolio becomes, the harder it emotionally and mathematically becomes to recover from major losses. Let me give you an example. If your portfolio falls by, say, 50%, you don't need a 50% return to recover. You actually need a 100% gain just to get back to where you started. And that's the brutal mathematics of drawdown. Which is why sophisticated investors focus heavily on risk management, diversification, liquidity, position sizing, and even downside protection. Not because they dislike growth, but because once wealth compounds, protecting the compounding becomes critical. Think about it this way. If your early years, your biggest asset is your future income. Later in life, your biggest asset becomes the capital you have already built. And that naturally changes how you approach risk. Because wealth is not only created by taking smart risks, it is preserved by surviving long enough for compounding to continue. Thank you and see you soon.
Please note this content is intended purely for education and discussion purposes. It should not be construed as investment or tax advice. Please evaluate suitability and consult your respective financial and tax advisors before making any decisions.